How are you guys today? Okay, so I promised y'all a mortuary story because I didn't give you any this weekend, over the weekend. So, I wanted to tell you about a story. Actually, I have two stories, but one is a mortuary story and one isn't. But the mortuary story is I was called to the medical examiner's office to pick up, a deceased person. And, I don't get too many details when I go to pick up a body. I just, there's this person here, this is their name, go pick them up. So, when I get to the medical examiner's office, I give them the name of the person I'm coming to pick up. They, and the workers there, some of them are like, they're assistants, so one of the assistants said, "Oh, you're here to pick up barbecue." I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy was burned into like crispy." And I'm like, "Okay." I thought it was kind of rude that he said barbecue, but working with stuff like that, you gotta have a sense of humor. You just have to, or else, and as long as you're not disrespectful to the family. So he like wheels out this gurney with a body bag on it. It's a black body bag. It's zipped up, and as soon as he wheels it out, I could smell like barbecue. Literally, that's what it smells like. But also a mixture of like nastiness, like the intestines and all the liquids and bile and stuff like that were also burned, and you could kind of smell that too. So it's kind of mixed in, so it smelled really bad. But the overall smell was like a barbecue. And so he's like, "Do you want to see him?" And I'm like, "Okay." So he unzips the body bag, and there's this like figure laying there. I wouldn't even say it looks like a man, because it looks like just crispy black, like when you barbecue, that crispy black crust that gets on the meat. That's what his whole body looked like. His entire body looked like that. And his whole head, all the way down to his feet. And then when it got to his feet, it looked weird because he had on like rubber sneakers, and the rubber had melted into his flesh. So the rubber and the feet and the bones were all like burned and melted together. So it looked really strange. And I was like, "Oh my God, those shoes burned right into his flesh." And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh wow, I've never seen anything like this before." And I had never seen anything like that before. So it looked just like his whole body was crispy black. And I was like, "Well, how did he die?" A car accident. He was in a wreck, and then his car caught on fire, and he burned. So that's how he died. And then we had to cremate him, so it's like he got burned twice. Anyway, so if y'all ever wondered, what happens to charred, burned bodies, stuff melts into their skin. So like if you wear sneakers or in like a lot of rubber or plastic clothing or nylon or something, that's gonna melt right into your skin. And when you wear stuff like that, even if you're not killed, it's harder to do a skin graft, cut off, it's in the way, and it's all melted into your veins and arteries. So that's why I really don't wear sneakers. Like I never really wore sneakers anyway, but after seeing that body, I tend to wear like sandals, regular shoes, flip-flops, or boots, so that like if something happens like that, or if I get burned, or if I'm in a fire, I don't have stuff stuck inside me, stuck to me. A lot of people like say don't wear pantyhose or nylons or something like that on the plane for the same reason. I don't know. I've heard that. I don't know how many of you heard that. Maybe it's old school. But I don't wear that either. So Long story short, that's what it's like when you're burned. And going to the medical examiner's office, when you visit there, there's like so many bodies coming in. And if you want to work at the medical examiner's office, you have to sign, because I applied there a while back. After I left the funeral industry, I was like, you know what, I kind of miss it, but I don't want to go back into that industry, so let me try this industry. I applied, and I laughed. They wanted you to work 12-hour days every holiday, and I don't know if it was for the same pay. I don't think there was overtime. And I was like, hell no, forget y'all. Bye. You know? And they weren't paying that much as for like assistants, like for medical examiner assistants or autopsy assistants. That's what I was applying for, an autopsy assistant. I was like, no thanks, y'all can keep that. Anyway, because you know they're city workers and they get paid, but they don't. This particular time that I applied, you know, I was used to getting paid a lot more, and they were like, you're gonna have to do this is what required of the job. Can you meet this criteria? And I was like, nope, can't meet it, sorry. So I would have more stories to tell y'all if I had taken that job, y'all, but I have been there enough times to tell you that a lot of times they are so busy that they don't really do the autopsies right. They skip, they do stuff incorrectly, they get bodies mixed up, they get autopsy reports mixed up. It's crazy, you know. So I really wouldn't depend, like that's why a lot of families get a second opinion when they get autopsies on their deceased loved one, because a lot of times those medical examiners' offices are overfilled and they don't have time to thoroughly investigate and do what they need to do. So, you know, maybe they should pay their workers more and they probably show up for work. Yeah, okay. So I have another story, and this is a true story that happened 2 days ago. Okay, so y'all know how I was walking around the mausoleum and I was like, you could go at any time and you should be thankful for what you have and the people in your life and blah, 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 blah. Well, the other night my husband was driving home, and it was about 11, 12 at night, and he was driving home because he had went to go meet his friend out for drinks, and he was coming home, and all of a sudden the car next to him like was hit from behind by like this huge like truck, and it wasn't like a 18-wheeler, it was just like a big pickup truck, and it ran her through the red light into a parking lot of a restaurant. And he, you know, he was right in the next lane, so that could have been him. And after seeing that, he drove over to where the cars had, you know, stopped, and he called 911, and, you know, they came. Cops were coming already. You could hear the sirens because there was one close by. And so the cop got there, and he was trying to, you know, see if the lady was okay. And the man was passed out drunk in his car because he was drunk. So he wasn't moving. So they were checking on the lady, and the ambulance came, and they took her out, and it was like no vitals, you know. They pronounced her dead right there. She died right there instantly. I think James, that's what my husband was saying. I think he said that her neck looked like it was like broken when they pulled her out the car, because he had to stay there because he was a witness. And they got all his information, so in case they need him, you know, to witness, they can contact him. So he came home, and he was just like, actually he was supposed to be home earlier than that. He was probably going to be home around 11, but he had to stay and like do the accident scene. And then like I saw the next day on the news, it was like, oh my God. And so he came home, and he was like all like shocked. He was like in shock. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? He's like, I just saw a lady get killed. And I'm like, what the heck? He's like, yeah, right next to me, you know, right, it's like literally less than a mile from here. And it was like I was getting ready to turn on our street, and I was in the at the red light, and this truck just came barreling through and hit this lady's car that was sitting right next to. And she was like 25 to 30 years old. She, you know, and instantly she was killed. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, that's why I don't like to drive at night. I'm like, I'm in the house before 10, always. Unless, you know, I go out, but I try to be very careful. But you can't predict other people's, you know, driving. That's, you just can't. That's why I always got on my protection. Bam. So, and I keep protection in my car too. I keep crystals, stones, herbs, all that stuff. Cinnamon sticks. Y'all, if the police stop me, you would think I'm a chef. Actually, I used to be a chef. Actually, after I stopped being a mortician, I went to culinary school, and I did that for a few years as well. So if y'all have any questions and y'all need to ask about, you know, what it's like to be a mortician or work in a mortuary or funeral home and deal with certain things, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll try to answer you. But thank you guys for watching. I'm also going to be doing a paranormal experience vlog right after this video that happened to me this morning, so stay tuned for that.